right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. We've got Dirk on the channel, robot mowing expert, I would say. And the reason why I wanted to get you on, I told you this off air, but you sell a variety of robot mowers, Dirk, and it's covering a range from the small residential stuff we've seen all the way up to these essentially sit-down ride-on mowers that have got all the fancy computers in them. Really cool, interesting stuff. And you're telling me you've sold quite a lot this year. So a lot of experience, and I'm pretty clueless. So I'm interested for this chat. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks very much for having me.
So you used to be a landscaper, right?
That's correct.
Back in the day?
Yep. Did commercial landscaping for about 16 years. And then that's morphed into a maintenance business. I am a qualified horticulturist, so lawns and gardens are my passion. So that's where I'm sort of heading towards.
About a year and a half ago, you were in this warehouse, roughly.
I was.
Something like that. Because you came over here with a friend of the channel, Gary. Good bloke. Don't know what he's doing with you.
We were both over there for some robot training.
Exactly, right? And at the time, I don't know if had you officially started your business?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, probably about three months earlier. Yep.
Right. Which is Robot Mowers Australia. Should have said that in the intro, but it's still within 2 minutes. Now you were doing the Ambrosio stuff over here because they're based over here, and when I was doing the Makers Month and I was asking all these brands on, we had Cress on. We touched very briefly on their robot mowers. We had Husqvarna on, and we almost exclusively talked about robot mowers on the Husqvarna product, the podcast. The problem is, though, if we're honest, is of course those brands are going to talk about how good their stuff is because there's an incentive there, and that's fine. But anyways, you've got Ambrosio, you've got Segway, Works, FJ Dynamics, Cress. I'm just going through your website right now. There's a variety of mowers there, and the Luber one, which you were saying, is very, very popular at the moment. So, which one's the worst?
They're all good. No, look, and this is why I've brought a lot of brands on, because I don't want to come to a customer and say, hey, I represent one brand, so this is from the model you need to choose comes out of this brand, even if it doesn't suit their yard. I want to go to a customer and say, based on what I'm seeing on your property, this model from this brand is going to be the best for you. And that, two doors down the road, that may be a different mower that's best for them. So that's where we come from.
I've been finding, though, that a lot of the stuff is changing rapidly because of the difference to some needing wires and some that don't need wires, right?
Yep.
And a lot of brands are coming out with, what do they call them? Is it LiDAR or is it just GPS or?
Well, the actual term is RTK, real-time kinematic, which uses the GNSS satellite system up there in space, and that's replacing the wired systems. However, there are limitations. So if you've got a lot of tree cover, if you're between a couple of tall buildings, 2-story buildings, that sort of thing, narrow passages, that's where satellite does struggle. And that's where some of the mowers like the Works Vision come in that have an AI camera that will detect grass and mow while it sees grass, and is not relying on that satellite signal. So that's the thing. Not every yard is suitable for a particular type of robot.
So, okay, I didn't even heard about that Works, the AI camera. So
it just
tell me about that.
So it's so Works have been around for quite a while. They've had a lot of wired mowers. You'll see them on the website there. But the Works Vision is their newest generation, which literally has a camera on the front of it, and as long as it's seeing grass, it's determining what's it needs to mow, what's an edge, a driveway edge, a garden edge. If there's a toy left on the lawn, it'll pick up on that. It'll go around it. So it's pretty smart, and it's getting smarter all the time because they're constantly updating their firmware. As it's as more and more users around the world are using them, they're sort of feeding that information back into the databases and they're learning more about them. So it's constantly evolving, that product, but it's getting better and better. The best part about it, that's the one there. Yep.
This one on the screen. Yeah. My fat fingers.
The good thing about it is it's literally you can be mowing without any setup. Basically, you can pull it out of the box, put it on the lawn, press play, and it'll go and mow your lawn.
That's epic. But I'm also, here's where my mind goes, if I'm just being honest. It seems too good to be true. It seems too fancy, like something's going to break, you know? Like, if my legs are hairy enough, will it think that's grass, you know?
Look, at the moment, it's probably, and like I said, it's still getting smarter. It's probably leaving a bit too much of an edge around the edge of your lawn. So you're probably whippersnipping maybe six inches rather than, the 3 with most other robots. But again, the thing with that one is it doesn't mow up and down in straight lines like the GPS mowers do. So it still mows in a random pattern like the wired mowers. But for someone who can't get a good satellite signal in their yard, or they have a very small yard, say like a courtyard, and a small front yard, a couple of patches of lawn, it's very easy. They can just set it up in the backyard. They can actually, with the charging station, they can have their backyard on the schedule, and then they just pick it up, put it in the front, press play, it'll mow for an hour or two. When it's done, they bring it back into the backyard.
Yeah, perfect for like certain situations, stay-at-home mum, and it's only $100 apparently.
No, that's that's our try before you buy offer. So we do that with a few robots. If people are sort of on the edge, they're not quite sure if it's going to work for them, they can rent it for a weekend or for a week, and then if they like it, then they can purchase a new one, and we'll credit that rental they've paid off their purchase price. That's been pretty popular.
Renter mowers must be picked up and returned to Minto Heights, New South Wales. So it's going to be more cost for me to drive my ute from Perth over to pick it up than it is just to get one.
Sure is.
Do you find doing that many people? Because I would assume that's a bit like back in the day, the drug addicts giving a little bit of crack to somebody. This getting them hooked. Do you find many people actually return it and go, actually, no, this is not for me, right?
No, I mean, most people that get it, it's just their last, they want to get one. They're just not quite sure about outlaying the couple of $1,000s. So it's just that low risk way of just checking that it really is going to work in their yard. So probably 90% of people who rent one pick up a new one as they're returning the rental.
They're pretty hooked in by then, right? You know what I mean? Like they're pretty. The clients themselves is pretty keen on it if they're getting to the point where they want to try one.
Yep.
Although, if you had about 10 companies that did the same thing, you could get a few weeks of mowing done for free, right?
That's true.
Keep asking them.
Yep.
I don't know. It'd be almost more worth it.
As far as I know, I'm the only one in Sydney doing it, so they're stuck with us.
Do you send mowers around the country much, or is it mostly New South Wales? All right, interesting.
No, yeah, Luber has been really popular. We've been sold some into WA. All around the country they go. Yep.
Yeah, and that one you're saying is the most popular at the moment, which I was surprised by, because I would have thought, because that's a really new brand, right? So I would have thought a Husqvarna or an Ambrosio, who've been around for a very long time, would be more dominant.
Yep. The thing is, Luber was first out in the market in Australia with the wireless mowers. They beat Husqvarna and the others to the market, and they've had probably a few good influences over in the States who've done a lot of content, which has helped drive the knowledge of them. So before they were even released here, we had people asking for when are they coming. So, but they've been a really good product for a first product for a new company. They really smashed it out of the park with that mower.
So what makes a robot mower good? Because the way I look at it is I just go, there's the basics of the wires and the GPS, right? But just in my naivety, if you had two GPS mowers side by side or two wide mowers side by side, I've seen photos of what's underneath. They look pretty similar. I look at them from the top, I go, that's pretty similar. Some look a bit weird, some look, a bit more appealing to my eye, and that's the extent. So what would you be, if you got two mowers that are both, say, $4,000 or $5,000, and they're kind of the same, is there really much difference between brands?
Look, they all have their similarities, but they still have enough of their differences. So look at the two main brands that we do in wireless mowers being the Motion Luber and the Segway Navimo. The big difference is the Luber has dual cutting discs underneath, so it has a 40 centimeter wide cut, whereas the Segway Navimo is only a 22 centimeter cut. So if your yard is a quarter acre or more, a Luber is going to do it a lot quicker. Which then helps extend your battery life because it's not doing as many cycles.
Right.
App functionality is a bit different. Some people are a bit more, aren't quite as comfortable with using apps and technology. So then the Segway Navimo has a much more refined app that might be better for them. There's a lot of considerations there. Slopes, the Segway doesn't handle slopes all that well, whereas the Luber does. So yeah, got to take all those things into consideration when working out what's going to be best for someone.
Right.
And we generally that's the Segway Navimo. Yep. So everybody knows the brand Segway with the two-wheel riders. Same company. Been doing electronics for a long time, and the Segway Navimo is their first foray into robotic mowers.
So yeah, that does make a big difference. And so twice as wide between the Segway. But the Segway, this one was 3,000. The other one was sort of 4,000 or 5,000. Are they still similar in price, even though there's those differences?
Yeah, it comes down to the square meterage. So that's the 800 square meter model, which is smaller than what the Motion Luber will do. Their smallest one is 1,000 square meters, and the new model is a couple $100 more than that one. So they are fairly similar, but again, there's just differences in how quickly it's going to mow your lawn. Number of zones that you can mow, that sort of thing.
When I had Husqvarna on, they talked about now you don't stock Husqvarna, do you? Or do you stock Husqvarna?
No, I'm certified to install Husqvarnas, but I don't sell them.
Let's trash them then,
No, we won't do that.
No, they were great. They were great when they came on. But the thing that I was thinking about, because we talked a lot about this $50,000 sort of styled mower.
The Ciora. Yep.
That's it. It seemed like a really great machine. But I thought about it after the podcast, and I was like, you could buy 10 $5,000 mowers and tell them to mow individual sections of the same oval.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And you could probably get more done in a day or more done in a short period of time. Do you know what I mean? Say you had a school that you had to mow, say, between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you had sprinklers on certain days or whatever, so you couldn't, because I do a school, so this stuff I was thinking about it. And I was like, at the school I've got, they've got, probably 10, 12 individual lawns. Most of them are small, and you got a big oval, right? So wouldn't it make more sense to buy a bunch of them, and do it that way? Anyway, has anybody done that? And is that something, even with an oval, 4 smaller mowers on an oval, divide it into quarters?
Yep.
And then because they're all mowing at once, it gets done much faster. Have people done that?
Yeah, especially with the older Ambrogio, we're doing it with their wired mowers. And the reason we don't sell a lot of the Ambrogio at the moment is because they don't have an RTK mower here in Australia. But they had a bit of a kit for soccer fields where you would have 3 or 4 mowers, and that actually overseas they have some technology where the mowers can actually talk to each other, so you can create one zone. The mowers will actually be mowing and talk to each other, so they know where each has been, so they'll sort of segregate themselves into a separate part of the field. Yep.
Right. Because I can see a lot more potential in that, especially because one of the other things that came to my mind is where we mow, we change our height of cut wherever there's trees, right? And so you want to cut higher, leaving more space under the tree. And I was thinking you could set up like this is this mower zone at that height, this is this mower zone at that height, and you could get,
Yep.
I don't think the school that I would do would even need 10. You could probably get six
Yep.
Lubers for, I
Mhm.
don't know, 5,000 each. How
Yeah.
much does the $5,000 Luber cost? I mean, how much does it do?
4,800.
So, sorry, what I meant is, how many square meters does that one do?
The Luber 2 5,000, the new one will actually do 6,000 square meters.
Okay. Oh, cool. So the 5,000 is not, it's underselling itself almost.
Correct. Yep.
So, but if we were going off 5,000 comfortably,
yeah.
I'm trying to
The
find
4,800.
I give up. I'm not going to
Better
find
off going by brand.
See, I don't know your website. Okay, brands. Here we go. Everyone listening's like this.
Motion.
Podcast is going down.
Third from the bottom, Motion.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so there you go. You can this school that I'm talking about is a little bit under 18,000 squares. So technically, you could comfortably do it with 4.
Yep.
It
just comes into, again, with your availability. Lawn availability comes a lot into it. So if if your lawn was available to be mowed 24/7, sure, you can achieve those sort of numbers. But if you're only, straight away, if you're only got 12 hours a day, you're halving your area that you can actually mow. So you've got to take that into consideration as well.
Well, that's exactly what I'm getting at, because like I feel like the areas that care the most about their grass are typically the areas either where there's a lot of financial incentive. So like you might have aged care facilities or retirement villages that want to look nice because it sells more spaces, or it's just areas that get used the most, really, right?
Yeah.
Like, and because it's getting used the most, like public spaces, for example, like I can totally see, like, do you remember when you were Perth? I don't know if you saw that, like how all along the river, there's all that grassed area.
Yes.
Along the river, heaps of big parks and stuff, hectares and hectares.
Yep.
And, why would you go to, Robot Mowers if it takes the entire day to cut?
Correct.
Because there's always people on there. You really only have a very small window to cut it in. But I could totally understand if the council bought 100 of these mowers, and had them in little lock boxes that they had some automatic shut door fancy thing that, drunk people can't purposefully destroy. And then you've got, you can mow every single night when no one's there, quiet enough. That's the sort of stuff. And so I was like, oh, I wonder if going bigger, there's actually a strategy to just getting more,
Yeah, and that is one of the new technologies that's coming. Is already being used in the States, where you've got sort of fleet mowing services where they have setups there. They actually have franchisees who run these sort of systems where they have a trailer with just little boxes where they could put the mower in overnight. It just charges in there. They drive up to the park or whatever they're doing. They pull them all out in the morning, press go. They all go out and like a swarm. They just mow the lawn, and once they're done, they come back to their starting point. And that's a way of getting all your lawns mowed very quickly. It just literally takes somebody to go and drop them off in the morning, pick them up again when they're done.
Do you think there's a long-term viability for that business, or do you think at some point the location's just going, well, we'll just get our own ones?
Yeah, look, we haven't seen it here in Australia yet, so I'm not really sure how it works. It comes down to the cost of the maintenance and everything. Some commercial operators, as in property, facilities managers, might not want to deal with the maintenance of a robot mower, so they're happy just to pay the bit extra to get somebody else to do it.
Sure.
We'll just see how it matures. It's only a very new industry, so it's all still rapidly evolving.
So then what is the biggest, you're talking about the maintenance there, what's the biggest hurdle you're getting in clients' minds when it comes to buying the mowers?
It really depends on their property size. So, say, for example, the Segway Navimo, which their smallest one is just under $3,000. If you're a homeowner, you've really got to hate lawn mowing to buy a $3,000 mower. But say with the Luber for 4,800, you can buy something that'll do, an acre and a half, and you're on an acreage. Looking at that mower versus buying a ride-on for 8,000 to 10,000 that you've then got to sit on as well, it's the value proposition changes a lot. So at the moment, residential market is still pretty slow to pick up just because of that initial purchase price. The larger blocks, the lifestyle blocks, they're sort of picking up on it pretty quickly just because of the time saving it gives them.
What's the cheapest mower that you sell?
The Works Landroid, some of the wired models for around 1,500. For an average suburban yard, 2-3 hours, you've got that set up.
Is that something that the homeowner would have to set up themselves?
That's the idea, that they come in a kit there with everything you need. They've got the wire. You can do that yourself. You can obviously get a professional installation by us or someone else, but then you're going to pay for that as well. So you've got to factor that into the cost.
And what does installation cost? I guess it depends on the property.
It depends on the property and how many hours. Normally start at about $500, going up to probably $1,000 for a small acreage.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want everything done yourself, at minimum you're looking at about $2,000, $1,500 for a mower, $500 for the setup.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, if you got a small little yard, how much time is that really saving you? I can totally see where that's coming from. There are some brands, like, what are your honest opinion on the brands that are, like, I've seen some real cheapo stuff out there in the hundreds.
Yep.
I think most people would go, if the professional brands are 1,500 and this is 500 or 400 or whatever they are, it's like, I'm nervous. But if you had a tiny backyard, is it worth it even trying, or are they that? Is it really unreliable? What are they like?
Look, certain brands can be worth trying. What it comes down to is having the local support. If there's warranty issues, you need spare parts, are you going to be able to get that with it? And with a lot of those cheaper brands that you can buy online from Amazon or whatever, you're just not going to get that support. So if you have an issue with the mower, you're basically replacing it with another one. That's going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah. So do you feel, because I've always felt like with these robot mowers, I remember Ambrosio being, at Armidale Mower World 12 years ago, 11 years ago. And I remember at the time thinking like, oh, wow, there's, what's going to happen with the industry? Where's this going? And 12 years later, we're
still going fine.
Well, it is, but I think a lot of people have always been worried about, like, oh, are they going to come and take our jobs and things like that? And I'll repeat what I've said in the past, which is that I don't think robots are going to take many jobs, but shift the jobs around, if anything, because most people that I talk to, especially the last 3 years, have been saying we don't have enough workers. And if you take, like, say, that council area that I talked about before along the river in Perth with hectares of grass, if you just replace them, there's probably 2 or 3 full-time gardeners who, maybe not even, maybe two full-timers that might lose their job. But let's be honest, the council's got 500 other things that have been falling behind on for ages.
Absolutely.
They probably just move them onto something else. And all of a sudden they're on fertilization and weed control or hedging or something else. So, but I also kind of feel like if you had said to me 12 years ago, like, even though there's been huge improvements, where would it be? I would have felt like, oh my goodness, everything, would there even be a lawn mowing business, around, because everything would have been robots. So where do you feel this is going in terms of, and how quickly, because you've got your finger on the pulse more than just about anybody, how quickly do you feel that mowers will take over jobs? And do you even think that that's a realistic possibility? Do you know, for the last few months, I've been working on a course to help people start and run a successful lawn mowing or gardening business. I've had a lot of questions over the years from people asking for coaching or asking for some sort of advice, and I'll help out as much as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, there's a limit to how much you can write in a comment, and I don't really have the time or skill set to do coaching. And so we've made this course from scratch. It's 47 lessons, over 6 hours of content. It is not a short little course that you can get done in a weekend. And also the price reflects that. But if you are somebody who is wanting to get into the industry from a different industry, or you're somebody who is really great at gardening, but maybe you need some help on the business side, I think the value for money is off the charts. I honestly think that if I had had this course myself when I was first starting out, or even in the first few years of business, it would have saved me years and years and years of heartache and mistakes and pain, because a lot of us were making the same mistakes that I was making all those years ago. And it can be avoided. If you are somebody who that sounds interesting to you, check out the link. Oh, I should also say there is an exclusive group as well. It's not just a course. There's a group. You have conversations, ask questions, all that sort of stuff. I want it to be as helpful as possible. I want people to succeed in business because I think small businesses are awesome, and I think the gardening and lawn care industry is even better. So if that sounds like it's of interest to you, there's a link in the description. Check it out, and I'll see you there if it is the right thing for you. Anyways, let's get back into the podcast.
Look, they are going to increase in popularity. Obviously, with councils, government departments, they're keen on pushing the sustainability. We've got noise regulations around, public spaces, that sort of thing. So they will be more popular there. But in terms of actually taking over, I don't see them taking over or taking a lot of jobs in that way, because, like you said, everybody's struggling for staff. They need, other jobs that need doing. You've always got the whippersnipping, you've got the fertilizing, like you said. Even maintenance on the mowers, the commercial mowers, they still need to be maintained. There's a weekly schedule, monthly schedule to follow, so the staff can be upskilled to do that. And in terms of what I've seen so far, I don't believe I've sold any mowers yet that have replaced a contractor on a residential job. It's all been generally been acreage owners who already have a ride-on mower and are just looking to get back their time.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had anybody come to me and say, "Hey, I'm paying X for my mowing. I'd rather buy a robot so I don't have to get that guy in."
Yeah. But even then, that's kind of, yeah, I mean, you've said that you've sold hundreds of robot mowers this year.
Mm-hmm.
But how many, I don't know, how many clients would a business serve in a year? Hundreds as well.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have, a full-time business with an offsider or something like that. You wouldn't have, I'm guessing it's still a very small, if I go on Google, you're one of the first results coming up on Google. But yeah, so how many years?
Yeah, it's still a very, very young industry, the robotics industry. And you look around as you drive around, the suburbs, you see how much lawn there is around in our cities, in our public spaces.
Yeah.
We have a lot of lawn in Australia, and
Mm-hmm.
there is I don't believe there will ever be a time where a robot would be capable of doing every piece of grass out there. Some properties, there's just not. They're just too complicated. Small little patches. There's always going to be a place for someone on a push mower or a ride-on mower. And like I said, you've got the whipper stripping to do, all the other lawn treatments. It's really just a case of upskilling. And then for the commercial, guys like golf courses, the councils, that sort of thing, it's just getting more efficient use out of their workers. And I guess having a reliable machine that is going to go out there regardless of the weather. It can work at night. So, for example, for a golf course, they can be mowing at night. So the fairways are ready to go in the morning for their customers, not being held. They're not being held up by finishing mowing operations, because obviously they've got noise restrictions. They can't just start whenever they want. So it's just really optimizing the process for those sort of places.
Yeah. So do you find then that, like, in my head, what I'm hearing is kind of maybe like a 20% of mowing jobs, or an 80%, or a 40%, or whatever it is, but never 100%.
What would you guess? I don't believe it would ever be 100.
What would you guess in 10 years' time? Because like I said, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, whenever it was when I first saw them, I would have been like, oh my goodness, by 2025, like, we're not going to be doing any more,
Yeah.
By 2035, because, we're basically, halfway through 2024. Well, 2034. how much percent of the market, if you have a guess, and obviously this is like a crystal
Mm.
ball, we're not going to hold you to your intent.
Pick a number.
Yeah, give you a fine
Pin the
if you
tail
haven't
on
got
the
it right.
donkey.
But if you're in your honest opinion, because my guess, if I ask this of a brand, they're going to be like, "Oh, it's going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread and all that sort of stuff."
Yeah.
But as somebody who's selling multiple bread, what would you feel as a percentage of mowing would be done by robots?
Look, let me go back a couple of years, which got me started in the robotic game. I was over in Scandinavia, over in Norway, and over there they would be at least 3 or 4 years ahead of us. And I think I probably saw robots on about 10% of properties over there.
Right.
They have a very short mowing season, obviously with a long winter, but seeing the robots over there got me thinking that this is going to happen in Australia. So it's a good time to get in. But yeah, like I said, they're a few years ahead of us, and it was still a case of you walk down the street and you could pick which property was mowed by a robot because the lawn just looked so fantastic. But it wouldn't have been more than 5 or 10% of the properties that I saw. So yeah, I'd down the track, maybe 40% of properties. I don't know, but there's a lot of people that enjoy mowing their lawn. So we've done a few shows and expos and that, and it's interesting. You get the wives come over and go, "Oh, that looks great. Come and check this out. We should get one of these." And the husband's like, "Yeah, no, I like mowing my lawn. I like my me time." So yeah, there's plenty of people that do enjoy mowing the lawn, but at the moment, it's really the people that love technology that are the early adopters, and then the people that really hate mowing their lawn and just want more time. They're sort of the people that are buying at the moment.
Yeah, and I've been trying to talk to this to. I've got some friends in the industry who are not lawnies at all, right? And they love their native plants or their veggie gardening, and they just cannot understand the joy of mowing a lawn, right? When I was, I was really unwell for a season. When I was really unwell at my worst, and I was just staying at home the whole time, I'd mow my lawn like once or twice a day, just because, like,
Gave you good satisfaction.
But I was like, I can get out of the house and I can do some walking and I can put my headphones on and I can listen to a podcast or just have silence or whatever. And it was just a nice break from sitting inside all day. And I was like, if I had an office job, which I don't think I could ever do a proper office job, not full time,
Yeah.
like that would 100% be something I'd look forward to on the weekend. And the same way that, like, I've got family members who grow their own food. A lot more than we do. And when you talk to them about the maths of it, like there isn't actually, like, the other day, my office at Bunnings, and you could buy a cauliflower in a little small pot for $3. You can just go buy a cauliflower for $3. You know what I mean? Like a fully grown. Like, what are you? You're not saving a single cent. It costs you more money and time and everything like that. Just go buy the. Anyways. So
it's just that satisfaction of doing it yourself and getting a result.
Yeah, people enjoy growing their own food, even if there wasn't. Sometimes it's financially beneficial, but even if you said to them, "Oh, it cost you $100 more this year to grow your own food," they'd be like, "Yeah, but I enjoyed it, and I was outside, and I know what I put on my food." And the same thing with the lawn. Some people would be like, "It's just that you're right." I think that's the market, especially when you had that season of people restoring their Scott Bonners and everything. It still happens, but it was really popular a couple of years ago.
Yeah, during COVID,
Yeah, because there's something about those older machines that people just liked. I don't know, the old way of doing things. It was probably a kind of reflexive response to all the time we spent on our phones and technology.
Absolutely. Yep.
Get me away from that.
Yeah.
So tell me about this. And you touched on sort of golf course stuff. And I want to jump on this because to do a golf course, you need some bigger stuff. And we'll go to a cylinder mower soon. But this is one of the things that is the most fascinating to me is this FJ Dynamics. What it is, I'm going to press play on this and try and describe. This is a video from March for those who want to have a look at it on Robot Mowers Australia Facebook page. Is it a 42-inch deck? Is that right?
Yep.
Essentially, it looks like an out of the box. I don't know. It looks like a Hustler or something, and it's just a ride-on, like a zero turn with the handles and everything, and it's going not slow, but it wouldn't be going full pelt, but it's going, I don't know, what's that, 5-6K an hour?
Yeah, right on about 5K an hour.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a brisk walking pace or a slightly fast than average walking pace.
Yep.
And it's just
that's adjustable too. You can speed it up, but yeah.
There you go. Do I get bonus points for having, I don't know, a good guess there? But dead straight line, side discharge. Yep. In other words, like, I don't know, how fast would that mower go normally? 10? So you could genuinely cut a lawn in, it'd be twice the time, which is, in robot terms, nothing, because usually these tiny little things, like you said, 22 centimeters, going in random directions, take forever. This is going up and down. Looks great. So, and I saw the price, 47,000. That's not as expensive as I was expecting. I'll be honest.
Yep.
So
yeah, we had that out on a demo with Landscape Solutions recently on one of their commercial sites. They had it for a couple of weeks, and they put it on one of their on a horse arena, and they cranked it right up, so you can run it up at 10 k's an hour, and they cut an arena of 4,500 square meters in an hour, so just over an acre in an hour.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Is side discharge? Can you put a mulch kit on this, or are you going to have problems?
No. Comes with you can get a mulch kit with gator blades on it.
So that to me, then, oh man, see, there's so many different options now, but like that to me feels a lot more. It's basically the same price as what we're talking about with the big Husqvarna one, right? But for whatever reason, I kind of, maybe it's because I'm familiar with these types of mowers and all sorts of stuff, it looks more trustworthy. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something about the new technology where you're like, oh, I'm not so sure about this, but I look at this and I go, I know what this is. I've sat in these before, you know?
The beauty with the FJ Zero Turn is it's mobile. So if you get a Husqvarna Siora or any of these other robots, they're designed to have one robot on a field 24/7. You don't pick it up and take it to another job and set it up there. The good thing with this thing is you can store multiple maps in the memory. If you're a contractor, you map out a yard, an acreage, whatever you're doing. You save it in the map. It's there. The next time you go back to that property, you just drive it into that area of maps. You press go, and it'll go and mow. So you can take it from job to job, have it mowing while you do the whippersnipping or the gardening, whatever. That's the biggest benefit of that. It is a different type of. It's a robotic mower, but it's a different type than the ones that need to live on a site 24/7. So we've been doing some demos with some councils, and they like it for the fact that, you know, if you look at sporting fields around our suburbs, they're not secure. You can't really leave a robot on it like a Siora parked on a field where anybody can get to it, anybody can pick it up, they can kick it, they can stomp on it. Whereas this is something the crews can bring with them on the trailer, and on the day, the lawn doesn't need to be super short. It can actually cut some reasonably long grass, and they can just, once they're done, throw it back on the trailer, take it back to the yard. So you don't have those security issues that you do with the smaller robots.
Yeah, this is for those who have, by the way. Is it? There you go. I thought I put the video on the screen before, and I was looking at it on my screen. Anyways, it's on the screen.
Yeah,
now.
no, you hadn't.
The lawn that's cutting is, I would say, probably 10 centimeters high, wispy, not super thick.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
But
it's paddock grass.
10 centimeters high, and you're cutting it down to 4, something like that, 4 or 5 centimeters.
4 or 5.
So, kind of what you would normally expect of a normal kind of fortnightly cut when things haven't gone too crazy. It's just doing it, you know?
Yeah.
That's
cool. My neighbour, he would normally only mow his paddock there probably every couple of months. He had probably done it a few weeks before that. But he loves me now because anytime I see it getting long, I put the FJD on it and off it goes.
So this is, the mower is got handles and the seat on it. Can you override it? Right.
Yes.
So you can jump on it and you can just drive onto the trailer, or you can sweep.
Yep.
Can you
mow? You can mow. Correct. Yep. You can mow. Right. So if you've got some small areas, you know, that aren't worth mapping and doing autonomously, you can just jump on it. You can mow with it. It also comes with a remote control, so you can do it remote controlled. So that's actually when I go and do my demos, I transport around in my van, so I can fold the ROPS down, and just with the remote control, I can drive it up the ramps and into the van.
So what battery life does this have?
I think this part of the video is just going to show obstacle detection. So I'm standing in the path of the mower, and it completely comes to a stop about 2 meters away from me, shuts down the blades, and it won't go again until I move out of the way. So it's pretty safe.
Is it sending
battery life?
Say you're out. I'm sorry, just on this subject. If say you're out on site and I don't know, something's in the way, a piece of rubbish blows in the way, and it just stops to is it going to alert you? Say you're on the whippy 100 meters away. Is it going to alert you with a message saying, "Hey, something's in my way"?
No, not for obstacles. If it did get stuck on something or there was an error or something, yes, it will send you an alert to your phone because there's a phone app for it. But you'd sort of, it's not designed to be left totally unattended. You'd want to be working in the area so you can still monitor it. And if, like you said, if something blew in front of it or whatever, then you could pick that up.
So, but if it was stopped for a long period of time, because I'm not talking about the same blowing in 5 seconds and blowing away. I'm saying like you might have started the mow, an hour ago or something. It's coming to its time and something's blown in since you did a site check. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, that's not very common, is it?
No, not really.
It'd have to be, and people would not want to go near it naturally. Nobody would want to. No old grandma is going to stand in front of a. Even if you know that it's safe, they're going to keep their distance because they do not trust it. You know what I mean?
No, that's right. You can override the obstacle detection, so you can turn that off. So actually, on this paddock here,
what sort of jail time do you get if something goes wrong with it?
Yeah, you wouldn't do it only in a controlled environment. Do not try this at home or in a public park. But on this property here, the first time I cut this, there was actually some wispy sort of strands of grass that were probably 300 mil high, and it was actually stopping for them.
Oh,
so
wow.
after a few stops, I disabled the obstacle detection and just let it go on its merry way, and obviously made sure I didn't go stand in front of it.
Well, that's almost like I mean that's great that's that sensitive, but that would be where you would have a great opportunity to just go, okay, let's say 10% of it is wispy. I'm just going to mow the wispy part myself. I'm just going to jump on, quickly mow the wispy part in a weird random shape, and then send it back to where it was and go, please keep going up and down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it is designed to mow lawns regularly, so that this is probably, if you've got long wispy bits that a slasher type mower has missed in the past, it's probably not the ideal environment for it, but I'm always testing it out and just seeing what it can do and what it can't do.
What about a mower that, so, I mean, I don't know what the framework on this is. It's yellow, so I immediately just think Wright or Hustler. I don't know if it's a different brand or if they've made it from scratch or whatever. But what is it possible in the future? I guess it would have to be battery, wouldn't it? But is it possible basically for you to buy one day an FJ Dynamics kit that you can just chuck on the mower you choose?
Yes. They already do auto steers for tractors, and they're now doing them for mowers. So I've seen videos that they put their auto steer kits into some of the big John Deeres, and you still have to have an operator in the seat, but at least it's mowing dead straight lines.
Better than what I do.
Yeah. And just going back to your question about battery life, they say you can mow up to about 6 acres on a battery life on a charge. The batteries in there are fully interchangeable, so you lift the cover underneath the seat, you pull the 3 batteries out, you can put three new fully charged batteries in and send it back on its way. So you can be mowing continuously all day.
That's a big deal for me, because when we did the podcast and Gravely talked about their version of that, I was like, yeah, that makes so much more sense. Just even if you just had one, just to ease that range anxiety, because what are you going to do if you die on a battery mower in the middle of an oval?
Yeah, and you've got to get back to the trailer.
you got stuck listening to Taylor Swift's newest stuff, and you got distracted, and halfway through the depressing song about some breakup, you realize you have something to really be depressed about, which is how the hell I'm going to get this 500 kilo machine back on, But because putting it on, that to me is way more appealing. Putting it on a machine you choose, because you may have now. Can it only work on battery machines?
No. So an auto, it's not autonomous, but it's auto steer. So it'll mow your straight lines.
Yep.
So
So if I put
where
my 3-year-old daughter on my walker here, and I just go, look, I can 3-year-old Emmy, we'll chuck some, I don't know, the wiggles on, and you just sit there. We'll put detection on.
almost.
And DCP, don't come for me, please. This is a joke. And then you get the idea.
Yeah. Look, I don't think it'll work on a walker. I think it needs to be on a steering wheel machine. But yeah, I have seen, like I said, I've seen they've put some releases out on some big John Deere's, like the golf course type machines, where it is running auto steer. But where FJ have really excelled is auto steers for tractors. So where you need those straight plough lines, spray lines on the farmers' fields, especially in Europe where their tractors aren't that big, so they don't come standard with auto steer. What they said to me here in Australia is our tractors are too big, because all the tractors here basically come standard with auto steer, all the really big ones. So they don't sell a lot here, but over in Europe where the farms are smaller, they do pretty well.
Yeah, we have a lot of land, that's for sure.
We do. Yeah.
So okay, because I know with the mulch versus catch argument, it depends. It is like a variety of things. I'm not anti mulch, but the idea that it's a one size fits all option. I mean, if you're talking about daily mowing, there's no problem, right?
No.
You're mowing every single day, sure. I'm just thinking about this, the FJ dynamics. If you're taking it to a job and you're mulching every 2 weeks, for example, if we go back to the school that we do, one of the main reasons they went with a new contractor, well, they had an employee there, and the mower that they had was just a standard side discharge, and he'd cut it, once a fortnight or whatever, and they'd just be getting grass all through the classrooms and things like that, because the kids would just be walking it through. And there's areas of schools and other places we worked at with a hell of a lot of leaves. And if you're mulching, it might take a couple of passes. You can get them really small. Some places don't care about that, but again, sometimes just picking them up. So having the diversity to go, hey, we've used this mower and we find that it's got the best cut, whatever it is, mulching, catching, whatever, sweet. And we can just chuck a kit on. And hopefully one day they come out with something that, I don't know, maybe needs professional installation to, cover some legal issues. But it'd be sick if someone's like, I've got a Skag 60 whatever, inch, or I've got a Gravely or a Hustler or whatever, and they just, I don't know, a couple of hours in at the shop, bolt this thing on, cost some money. But then the mower that you love, you trust has got this on. That's a sick idea. That's awesome.
I'm sure it will go there as the industry matures and the technology becomes more available and cheaper. It's like plasma TVs. When plasma TVs first came out, they were $20,000. People still bought them, but now you buy one for $500. It'll happen with robotics as well.
Gee, can you imagine plasma TV $20,000? And it probably was 3 years later, they're probably $3,000, and 5 years later, they're probably $1,000. And the person who spent $20,000 on it's like it's not as cool.
Yeah, but there's always early adopters who'll pay any price to get something that's new and flashy.
Yeah, that's true. And that's it. That's their hobby. And I spend stupid amounts of money on other things as well. So whatever. I want to show you this. We both saw this on LinkedIn. This is pretty cool. Now, is this for sale? Because you know a little bit more about this. I'll describe for people listening, but they're in America, Firefly Automatics. I saw a video, which is what we're about to play, of a robotic cylinder mower, but it is, I think it's a 3-gang, so it's the size of it's a medium-sized sit-down cylinder mower. And I was like, that is so fascinating, very interesting. The blades go up and down. Probably costs a fair few pennies. But what else do you know about this mower?
Not a whole lot. Pretty much just on LinkedIn what you've seen. I know they're doing demos on golf courses in the States. I did look at the company. They do other products as well. So they've been around for a while. They're not a brand new company. So I'm pretty sure that they're actually trying to sell this in the US market already.
Yeah.
Does a good job too, striping up.
It does. Like it looks no different than a proper cylinder cut, and because, like you say, it's a robot. The lines are clean.
Yeah.
That's probably, if I zoom in there, that's probably the better. I mean, it's all getting pixely, but it's cool. Like I can see. I always used to think like with cylinder mowers, you wouldn't see them residentially. I still believe this. I don't think you would see a cylinder mower robot residentially, just simply because the whole point of a robot is to save time. But the problem with cylinder mowers is you'd have so much maintenance adjusting the cutting reel, and if it hits something small, like it's going to do some damage to it, and they probably will exist, but they're probably very rare. But golf courses, just about everybody I talk to in golf course industry is really trying to find some, decent workers out there. And a lot of people, if you don't know about golf, the way you cut the fairway, you can cut it with a ride-on. Some golf courses will cut their greens with ride-ons, but most will want to cut their greens with walk-behind machines because it gives better undulations, blah, blah, blah. So what you're going to find is, like, you could still have a crew that keeps their same maintenance schedule, and then the guys can cut the greens with the walk behind, whilst this old robot's doing it, the fairways right alongside them,
Yep. Yeah, and there's the commercial space is where it's really going to be at in the next few years. I think residential will tick along, get people that'll buy them, but commercial is where it's really where people are struggling with staffing issues, with reliability, weather issues, obviously the sound for neighbours and that. So I think commercial is where it's really going to take off in the next few years as some more products come on the market. We're currently talking to Echo. So we all know Echo, the brand that does the blowers and everything. They also have a robotics division because they bought out Bell Robotics in Belgium a few years ago.
Oh, really?
They've got they're coming to Australia this year, and you're already in the States and in Europe. You've got 18-hole golf courses being managed, fairways and roughs by 8 to 10 robots. They're rotary mowing like the smaller robots are, but just on a bigger scale, so even bigger than a Ciora. So that'll be coming this year, which is exciting.
How much are they going to cost?
Probably similar. I haven't heard final pricing yet. Probably similar to like what a Ciora is, with a bit be able to do a larger area and probably an extra cut per week. From what I'm told, the Ciora at its maximum capacity will give you 1 to 2 cuts a week, whereas an Echo is going to do up to about 85,000 square meters 3 times a week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and then when you're talking about that, like, again, we talk about the money of the machine, and you compare it to a normal machine you would buy, and it's like, well, it's a lot more money, but as soon as you put labor on, like, the machine is nothing. The machine costs, over a course of a 5-year period of time, $50,000 lawnmower, that lasts you 5 years, and it's getting used full time. Let's say that's the majority of the work you do, right? So $50,000 robot, that's your total cost, $10,000 a year. You get a $25,000 sit down, and you're paying someone 70, 60 grand. I mean, 70 would be super workers comp. That would be the cost of a $60,000 wage, extra 10 grand on that sort of stuff. You got that for 5 years. What's that? Close to 400,000. $350 for wages. Like it's
it adds up very quickly. Yep.
No comparison.
And then the beauty with the robots, like I said earlier, is they can mow at night. So your course is ready. The guys will come out with the cylinder mowers in the morning, mow the greens. but the fairways and the roughs are mowed, ready to go. So it just gives you more options for when you're cutting, and for having it available to play on.
What do you know, or is there anything out there? I don't know a single thing, but is there anything out there that's trying to do edges as well, like a whippy or even a vertical edge?
I did see a picture yesterday of a brand that had a bit of a picture. I don't know how close that is. It was actually Gary Ashton sent it to me yesterday. And yeah,
All right.
that's the first time I've seen a picture of somebody coming up with an edge, and it was like literally like a whippersnipper cord on a vertical, as an attachment to a robot. I've been talking to the brand about their robot, but haven't gone anywhere with it yet. But that was the first I've heard of an edger attachment. I still don't know how that's going to work.
I feel I've said this before. Like, I feel the problem is going to be legal,
Yes.
not technological.
Yep.
And I think we will see way more self-driving cars than we will. Like, self-driving cars will be more popular before we see any machine with an exposed blade.
Yes.
Even if it's a nylon cord, because I think the money in, like, same with FJ Dynamics doing tractors and stuff. There's way more money in agriculture than there is in lawn care, you know.
Yep.
But if you've made it for tractors, it works on mowers. Chuck it on there as well. I'm guessing that's kind of where they came from. Same thing with, like, there's incredible money in transport. You know, cars, trucks. That's where all the smartest brains are going to go. And once that technology's there, then they'll go, oh, we can chuck in lawnmowers too. We already have it. We already made it for cars.
Yeah.
But legally, like, people are really sketchy about, not sketchy, but concerned, or, you know, they
100%.
feel it might be a bit sketchy for automatic driving cars because, well, you know, what if there's a crash and who's at fault and all that sort of stuff? You know, what if there's a malfunction? And so there's all that legal stuff. And I mean, it'd be awesome if one day you did have a robot that would edge mow everything as clean as possible, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't see it happening anytime soon. Again, just the safety aspect and like I said, the legals of it. How you can do that safely, I struggle to see that at the moment. But you know, somebody will come up with a brighter mind than us will come up with it.
What else are you seeing in the industry coming out that us novices might not be aware of?
So this same brand that had the picture of the Edger, they have already announced that next season in the States they are releasing basically the way their robot works is it's a modular unit. It's actually on tracks. It has a cutting deck that sits out the front, and then that can be changed out. So they've already this past winter in the States, they've had a snow blower. So for customers who've got one, they can snow blow their driveways early in the morning, so their driveway's clear when they want to go to work in the morning. Then for the mowing season, they can put the mowing deck on. And then they're coming out with some attachments for the back of the mower. So one of those is a fertilizer spreader. The other one is a sprayer, little sort of tow behind unit, and it's all fully calibrated. So literally you map out your yard or your area. You put in your dosage that you want the product to be applied at, and it will just apply it at that correct rate. So that's pretty exciting.
Do you have to attach and remove the attachments, or is that automatic too?
They are working on a concept where that will all be done automatic. At least the front mount attachments, the snow blower, they're coming out with an actual blower as well, a leaf blower on the front. The mowing deck will actually have like a bit of a garage that you put against the wall, and it will automatically, based on what it needs, go and fetch that attachment and then go off and do it.
I talked about this with Husqvarna, but what I would love would be, say you're in an area with a lot of leaf fall, you know, if you could have, or even just if you just had a catcher on a mower, you know, if you're mowing every day, you don't really need it. But if you had a lot of leaf litter that you wanted to clean up, and it would be awesome if you had a catcher that was hydraulically able to lift up and dump into a compost bin or something like that. So you cut up all the leaves, had the compost bin, and then had the compost bin on like an auto rotate timer or something like that.
Yeah.
And you just did your stuff, and at the end, you've just got some compost, chuck it on your garden, chuck it in your veggie patch, and that'd be awesome too. I'd love that.
Look, it's probably not far-fetched. It'll probably happen. I'm actually testing. So Motion, who make the Luber, they've got a Kickstarter which is just finished, which is the Yucca, which is a mower with a catcher on it. I've got, I think, the only one in Australia at the moment as a test unit. So it has a little basket on the back of it.
Oh, sweet.
It actually has a brush attachment in the catcher, so it's not relying on lift created by the blades. It's actually sweeping the leaves off the lawn and throwing them up into the basket. And then you in your mapping, you set a dump point, and it'll drive there and it actually lifts the basket up, gives it a couple of shakes, drives forward, then closes again. It's pretty small, so I find the catcher fills up very quickly. So I've just got a test unit, so I'm giving them a lot of feedback on it. But what I'm finding is it will fill up quickly, but then it doesn't empty based on the catcher being full. The way it empties is based on how many square meters you set in your parameters of how much you want it to pick up before it will go and empty. So if you get that wrong, you underestimate, how mmany leaves you've got on the grass. It'll keep trying to pick up and not picking up before it goes and empties. So, it's interesting. They're the first ones to try it, so it's interesting.
Well, obviously with the Walker, which you probably know, they've got a sensor in the actual catcher, which when it gets full, it gives you an alarm, and that's when you know to go and empty it out. So, surely, 50 grand ride on lawnmower, okay, fine. But they probably have the technology to do it. Probably just trying to keep the cost.
It just needs a camera or a laser beam or something to just detect once it gets to a certain height. I'm full, go and empty.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, it's probably cost and if they can, it ended up being I don't know. You put too much technology in it. It's a $10,000 mower for a 500 square meter property. That's probably the challenges that they have. Here's another thing I was thinking about, which it would be epic. But the problem of stairs, right? You can't get you. Has anybody done like a drone one where it's a robot mower that has a drone on it as well, and then it goes all the way up the stairs to the next spot. You put it back down again, and then it does the next area.
Not that I know of. I'm told there's an indoor vacuum that's just come out that can climb stairs. So watch this space. They might work on something that'll do stairs for the robots.
But that would be another thing for me. That would any sort of politician or lawmaker would be like, what? You want a flying lawnmower with exposed blades on the bottom? Like, yes, that's what we want. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but also, what's wrong with you? This is the best idea since sliced bread.
And that stairs and narrow passages are one of the limitations in residential robotics at the moment. Especially a set of stairs, the robot physically cannot get itself from the front to the back. You can pick it up and bring it to the front, but it takes that automation out of it. So, I'm sure they'll work on something.
Do you have the possibility? I saw this the other week with an indoor vacuum where somebody had stored it underneath some drawers, and it had an automatic door that opened and shut when it came in and out. Do you know what I'm talking about? I have no idea how that works, but what it made me think about is, can you get like a doggy door for your robot mower that has that same sort of automatic open and shut when the robot mower wants to go through, so that it can somehow go to the front and the back without you having to leave a gate unattended? Does that already exist?
Husqvarna have got something similar. Don't know if it's been released in Australia yet. I believe it's out in Europe. There are a few people who sort of invent their own, but basically the concept is have a little flap with a motor on it with an RFID, so it recognises when the mower's just about to get there, it opens up.
True.
Once it's gone through, it'll close again. So that way, if you've got pets in the yard or whatever, they, some of them will get smart and know to tailgate the mower. But in general, that's the concept, that literally just as the mower gets to the gate, it'll open up. go through, and then close again. That's definitely being worked on. Yeah.
Because you could definitely have aftermarket. Now that you've said RFID, I'm like, you could have some tech savvy person could make their own for sure.
Oh,
I was more thinking about
people
security.
have been,
I was more thinking about security than dogs, though.
Yep. No, I mean, people build little nice little sheds or doggy kennels for their mowers to park in at night, and I've seen some pretty cool designs from Europe where they have the garage door. It looks like a little mini garage, and as the garage door comes up, mower comes out, closes again.
Yeah.
They put lights in there and everything. It's looks good.
Yeah, people are cool. It's like the you've probably seen these videos. They're very popular every Christmas when someone's wired up their Christmas lights to match a song. And you're like, how the hell do you do that? But for somebody, it's just easy. So there'd be people listening to this. They'd be like, Luke, this is piss easy stuff. What are you even talking about? And I'm like, man, this is magic. You guys are so smart.
Yeah, that's it.
So what is the biggest misunderstanding then that you're seeing when you talk to clients, anybody, contractors, anybody? What's the biggest misunderstanding they have about robot mowers?
Look, there's a lot of just getting understanding of robot mowers is still, from the shows we've done, even one recently, a rural show out just outside of Sydney. I had robots out on the grass cutting the grass, and people would walk past and go, "What is that doing? What is that?" A lot of people just don't know that robot mowers exist. So that's probably the biggest misunderstanding at the moment, is just knowing that they're out there. And then it just comes down to knowing, or working out whether your yard's going to be suitable. Again, that not every robot is suitable for every yard. Some yards are just too difficult at the moment for the technology to even have a robot. It's just, there's no major misunderstandings. It's just lots of little sort of local specific things to specific properties, really.
If I'm going to give you 3 scenarios with your knowledge, right? And you may even just pick a brand you don't sell or anything like that, just for curiosity people's sake. But there's 3 scenarios. You got your sort of classic 100-ish to 200 square meter residential property. May's not an object for either of these. So you got 100, 200 square meters. Then you've got kind of your acre, and then you've got your big, large commercial facility, say 2 hectares, 2,000 square meters, 20,000 square meters, sorry. So, 200 square meters, 4,000 square meters, 20,000 square meters. 200 square meters or less, what do you think, money's not an object, what is the best mower out there right now for that area?
Again, it depends a lot on the yard, on tree cover, shading, satellite, whether satellite can get into the yard. But let's say, it's all fairly good in that respect. One of I don't sell them, but one of the Husqvarnas, or probably a Segway Navimo, they're probably par for that sort of yard, as long as there's no steep slopes.
When you get into the tree cover and stuff like that, and steep slopes, what are you taking for that same size yard?
Probably a Luber. It can handle more tree cover than the other two can, and obviously it can handle the slopes. It can actually do up to 40-degree slopes,
which is like not even, like
40 degrees. You're struggling to walk on it.
Yeah, nobody has a foot. Like incredibly rare someone has something that steep.
Yep.
All right, so then you go to your acre. You're saying the Lubers are really popular in that size. Is that still what you go with? Money's not an option?
Yep.
That's what you're going with?
Yeah, they're the market leader in terms of capability at the moment, just because of how quickly they cut. Being all-wheel drive, even if your lawn's a bit uneven or got a few ruts in it, it's just going to power on through there. There's not really anything in the market that compares to them at the moment for that sort of acreage size.
Being four-wheel drive, one of the things I've noticed before is like with a larger Husqvarna unit, I noticed it drove over a big stick once and got stuck on a big stick, which is understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Does four-wheel drive do better with that, or is it just a universal problem with the machines at the moment?
It's a universal problem. Even a Luber can get stuck on a stick. It really just depends. 9 times out of 10 it'll drive over no problem. It's just that one angle where it just gets in at the right. Might stop the disc from spinning or whatever, and that's where we'll get stuck. So going back to probably your question about the biggest misunderstanding, they're probably thinking about it now. Probably the biggest misunderstanding is that they're just set and forget. That you just put it out there. You can go away for 6 months and you come back. And you'll have a beautiful lawn. They do need some oversight. There are, especially in Australia where we've got gum trees that drop sticks. You do need to just keep an eye on it. That's actually probably the biggest misunderstanding.
When I say a stick as well, just for clarity, I haven't got anything around me that's the same size, but it was a pretty thick stick. It wasn't like a pencil-sized stick. It was, I don't know, two and a half centimeters. Yeah, something like that. Just natural thing that fell off the tree.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, oh my goodness, how did I get stuck on this? I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like it's something that you would move out of the way of your rotary mower. If you're mowing a lawn, you wouldn't want to just run straight into that. So
yeah.
All right. So
that's the thing. They're not set and forget. So even the commercial mowers like the Echoes, their recommendation is that do a check of the area before you send it out to mow. Like you would do with a normal rider mower, pick up the rubbish and whatever.
So, ignoring the FJ Dynamics, where that's more of a contractor style, I guess, or for the most part, it's sort of targeted to that. If we're just looking at your kind of more common robot mowers, we got that 2 hectare site. Would you be going with the really expensive single option, or would you go down the path of multiple to do different areas? What would you be your thinking on that?
Well, again, it depends on the site. If it's a soccer field, for example, that is one area, you'd probably still just go to the one mower. If you're talking like a school where you have a small oval, and then you have a lawn out the front of some of the buildings, and you need to divide it up, then multiple mowers are going to be your best bet. Because those really big mowers like the Cioras and the Echoes are not designed to be maneuvering in and out around, uneven shapes, around a lot of obstacles like trees, garden beds, that sort of thing. They become very inefficient there because they just spend so much time maneuvering.
Yeah. And what else is getting you excited about this? Because how many years now have you been? How many years have you been doing this? And what is getting you excited for the next few years, other than what we've already talked about?
How many years in terms of robotics?
Yeah, in terms of this. So, because I'm getting you're pretty new and probably still fresh and quite excited about everything, right?
Yeah, look, it's coming up to 2 years now in August that I bought out the company. Look, at the moment, just the RTK technology is still very new and fresh. We've only had it here in Australia since August last year, and that's what's really changed the industry. Up until then, it was all wired mowers. People were starting to hear about this RTK technology coming, and they were sort of going, "Oh, look, I want a robot, but I don't want one. I don't want to get a wired one. I want the new technology." So a lot of people are holding off, and that's why this season has been a good one, because it's removed that hurdle where people can get their stripes, and mowing efficiently, no wires in the ground. And I guess that technology is just going to evolve. You put AI cameras together with RTK technology where it's going to take over when it loses satellite signal, that sort of thing. It's just going to become more accessible to more properties.
Yeah, and you would expect over time, like all those developments that we talked about, and then things just get better and better. And other than the edging or having an exposed blade, and drone flight, which that could still be possible.
Yep.
You just have to have some sort of automatic cover that covered the blades up or something like that. You know what I mean? Like from a drone.
Yeah. Like I said, then you're putting a lot of technology into a mower, and then whether it becomes worth the price point, then is the question. But
somebody will.
But definitely, in terms of getting me excited, just where it's going to go commercially, because that's an untapped market at the moment. We haven't even scratched the surface there yet.
What do you reckon about? Well, actually, before I get into that subject, we haven't talked much about the Crest ones. What are they?
No, we haven't. They're pretty good. So the difference with Crest to your Husqvarna EPOS machines to your Lubers, where with those machines you set up a reference station on the property that you're mowing. Crest have a network, so it's like the phone network. So Crest set up antennas, which gives coverage over a wider area. Each antenna, will have a radius of between 15 and 25 kilometers. And when they put multiple in an area, they all sort of mesh together. So at the moment, they're still rolling that out through the capital cities. So if you don't live in a Crest network area, you can't have a Crest mower. So even say all of Sydney, for example, doesn't have coverage yet. We're getting there. One more antenna should do it for Sydney. Melbourne's not bad. Brisbane's pretty good. But if you live, at Tamworth or somewhere, you're probably not going to see a Crest mower there for quite a while because it's going to take a while to get the coverage out there. But they're a pretty good mower. They're aggressively, trying to grow their market share both in the tools and the robots here. Now that we've got some coverage in Sydney, we can actually start pushing the robots. So their largest one will do up to about 36,000 square meters.
Oh wow! Yeah, and how expensive is that?
$20,000.
Right. So yeah, that's kind of. I just keep thinking of the school at work at because that would be, back to what we're talking about there. And I don't know what's the coverage like in Perth.
I can tell you in a second if I have a look.
Type in Shirley Strickland Reserve and see if that's covered because that's where the event is going to be.
It just gives me general sort of keep talking and I'll find it. Just got to log into their portal.
I'm just thinking because we've got the live event coming up with Tim the Lawnmower Man.
Oh yeah,
Crest are going to be there, and obviously they're going to bring their tools and stuff like that. So the suburb's called Ardros that it's in, and if they have coverage, it's pretty close to the city, so pretty central.
Yeah, right.
If they've got coverage there, then they'd be able to run them and have a look.
Yeah, for sure.
I can imagine if it was like 1 kilometre out of their radius, they'd be pretty annoyed at me.
Yeah, Perth's pretty good. You've got Perth, you've got coverage from Mandurah all the way up to Joondalup, and sort of out past Armidale. So there's obviously a couple of antennas there.
Yeah, well,
so the city's all covered.
Oh, it's very, very well covered then.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay, interesting. But 20,000.
Yeah, so
that's kind of that would do. What was it? 36? You said.
Up to 36. Yeah, they say 24,000 as a is okay. You can push it to 36, but you're just reducing your cuts per week.
Well, that's comfortably two full soccer fields. You know, an AFL oval. It's so and $20,000 again. That's less than the mower I use on its own. So yeah. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast, but it was 7-8 months ago or something like that when they came on. But yeah,
I guess the big difference with the robots though is you're paying $20,000 for that robot and it stays on that property. So it's not like you take it to another school the next day and so it is an initial investment, but you get that return on it over the longer term.
So what I was going to ask you about then as well, like moving on from mowing, because we kind of touched on fertilizing and all that sort of stuff, but do you think there's any possibility, because I'm very skeptical about this, but any possibility of there being robot hedges, because chainsaws, no, because that's way too technical and way too dangerous, right? But there'll be obvious things like, I don't know, street sweepers and things like that, but is there any other line of the gardening industry that even is a possibility of this sort of happening?
I can't see hedges. Again, you've got that exposed blade. How can you make that safe?
And that's way more dangerous than a nylon cord.
Yeah, 100%.
Like so much more dangerous.
Look, with AI and stuff, I have seen. I think it was just on one of those, like an Amazon or something. There was a robotic weeder. but how good it was, I don't know. But with AI coming, already in and like we were saying, with the automotive industry and with agriculture, that's where the money is. So once they get those things sorted, it's going to filter down to the garden industry. In agriculture, we've already got AI detecting weeds in a cornfield and spraying just the weed. Once that filters down to our industry, and an AI type weeder will be able to determine what's your pansy and what's a weed, so it pulls the weed out. That will come, but it's going to take a little while yet.
Another thing that crossed my mind, which would be really cool, because have you heard the rain as we're doing this podcast? My microphone's not that sensitive, but you won't believe
it's still
me.
Raining,
We've had rain the
wow.
last 2 days, 3
Congratulations.
days, and I know it's serious rain too. Well, it's serious in like a proper shower, because we've had before 3 days ago we had less than 30 mils in 7.5 months. It was like That's 26 nice. Or 20. It was driest 6 months Perth's ever had on record.
Wow.
So like super dry, and we are getting, thanks to this rain, hopefully that's all averted. But we were at risk of losing natural native trees in areas like that because of the
groundwater.
Like even they are losing access to water. Yeah, because 7.5 months is a long time. It's,
That's crazy.
We're talking September through till the middle of April, right? But Andrew Thompson, who runs Spray Mower Services and been on the podcast, I was on the phone to him, and a big part of what they do is regenerative areas, right? I don't think they do the tree plantings. I think they do some of the aftercare and things like that. But carbon sequestration and replanting areas that may have been mined or whatever, I crossed my mind. I was like, those trees obviously are natives, but they're very sensitive when they're first planted. And I was like, an AI waterer would be sick. If you installed, I don't know, a bore somewhere, and then had it pumping to a few locations, and you could just refill at a tap, and go out and just, because you really don't need much water for a seedling. And if you targeted it to that little spot, 100 mil on a seedling, once a week on a seedling like that, and it'd be such an efficient way of doing it. And so there's all those things that'd be so cool. And then you could think about how that would, environmentally, that would be epic. You could, because they lose 40% or something like that of the seedlings. Or weather like this.
100%.
Andrew was telling me that they're having to redo millions of seedlings down in that area. So, stuff like that. Is there?
I'm sure
anything else? Anything else like that? I'm
not that I've heard of. No, I like your out of the box thinking.
Did you listen to the Husqvarna podcast we did?
Yeah. Yep.
And how there's a few times where he was like, no comment.
Yeah.
Like, have you thought about doing this? And then, no comment. Like, man,
they've got a few ideas they're working on, I'm sure, but look, with the advance of AI, that's really going to change things, because it's going to get smarter. You can teach a tool or a machine to do something, to think sort of for itself. And like I said, we've already seen with ag, with spraying, as a tractor's passing along, and an autonomous tractor at that, to pass along, and for the AI to pick up that's a weed, I'll just squirt a little bit on that, rather than you're doing broad acre spraying of the whole field. The environmental savings of that are huge. So I'm sure it'll filter down to us.
So for those who are nervous then, and this is probably a good way to finish the podcast, for those who are nervous about the oncoming AI takeover of the world, what specific roles in this industry would you be choosing that would be the most robot proof? Obviously, again, we're not going to hold you to it in 10 years' time and tell you off. But hedge trimming, chainsawing, we just mentioned those.
Yeah, exactly.
Just from the safety of it. And what else would there be?
Yeah, look, I think anything gardening related, planting, like you said, hedging, trimming, mulching, just those gardening services that require a bit of skill. You've got to think about it on the go as you're going. It's the, as with everything else, it's the repetitive, laborious tasks like just sitting on a mower and mowing. They're the first jobs to be at risk. Stuff that can be easily replicated, that's going to go first. But the more involved stuff, where you got to think a bit, where you need some knowledge, I think that's pretty safe.
So, where can people find you, Dirk?
robotmowersaustralia.com.au, or they can call me on 1300 RoboMow.
Oh, really? You got that now? That's a good one.
Yep.
I just got my. We just got. I feel insecure now. We just got a normal mobile number for our business.
Look, no, right, and mate. It's just a business tip for people in general, because I still have a maintenance business as well, which I have a 1300 number for. It's a very easy way and cost-effective way of having a central number that people can just call, and you can divert it to your mobile, you can divert it to your wife, to anybody, even at different times of the day. And it's just a good central number. It gives you a bit of prestige because you've got a landline number, rather than just ringing a mobile, where people might be scared of ringing a mobile. Who knows, they get on the other end of the line. Give them a 1300 number for $50 a month or whatever, and it's great.
Do people expect like a robot to answer the phone? They've got robot mowers and robot admin assistants.
No, it's all human interaction here.
You should try this on next. What's the word I'm looking for? April Fools. Get one of those robot voice filters or whatever for all your phone calls. And just pretend that you're actually a robot who works for Robot Mowers Australia. All right, friends, before you go, firstly, well done for making it to the end of the podcast. Secondly, if you have made it to the end of the podcast, you obviously liked the podcast. If you do like the podcast, which you clearly do because you made it to the end, unless you fell asleep or somebody held you against your will, maybe you're the passenger and the driver put the podcast on and it was too awkward to tell them that you didn't like it and you think the host is an absolute wanker. And so you just sat there and suffered. But everybody else, other than those two scenarios, you probably do like it. If you do like it, can you share it? Can you comment? Can you give us ratings? All that sort of stuff. Support in some way, because this is not a big production. And believe it or not, those little things actually make massive differences to the algorithm, helping people find the podcast. And ultimately, if you enjoyed it, maybe somebody else will. So I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for supporting and listening all the way. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Anyways, I'll see you in the next podcast.